Hi, I'm David Petersen,
I'm Jesse Glenn,
and this is the Plotmasters Project,
a video podcast of two artists looking back
and revisiting their earliest characters and stories.
This time, Quietus.
So Jesse and I met in the summer of 1988, and we've been friends ever since. But between the years of like 1990 and probably about 2000, there was a decade of magic where he and I created a lot of things together. Some of those things were my characters, some of those things were Jesse's characters, some of those things were our characters together, or where we take our two separate universes and find ways to intertwine them like a crossover event. And over the course of the Plotmasters project, we're going to be exploring some of all of those kind of categories, things that are mine, things that are Jesse's, and things that are ours together. This episode with Quietus is one of Jesse's characters.
So, yes, Quietus was one of my first solo characters. David and I both worked on various team projects and solo character projects. So, this was my first mostly fleshed out character as a solo project, and is a female character.
You tended to have a lot more female characters than I did. You were better at drawing the ladies, and I think you liked having drawing and writing and coming up with stuff for girl characters, lady characters.
I did. I actually, and we'll get around to those in later episodes too. But this was my first major one, and her inspiration initially came from strictly a visual. There was a comic book somewhere out there in the world that I had one issue of. It was black and white. It was from an independent publisher of some kind, and there was a character in there who was a hawk woman, not like DC Hawk Girl, but like her actual face had a beak, and her hair was this mess of scribbles. And for some reason, I loved that aesthetic, and it was just scribble hair, scribble hair, scribble hair. And I wanted to do that with a character, so my initial drawing for Quietus ended up being lots of scribbles in her hair. You can see in the lower one, there's a face in there somewhere and lots of scribbles. And then in the other image, I added a body. But it was something I kind of liked and wanted to stick with, and I kind of developed a character based on hair. Then, I continued to develop her as just another picture, scribbling hair. And I suppose every character needs more than that.
They need more than a body and a hair.
So
a face and hair.
Yeah, so I said, okay, what does this character do? And I think it might have been kind of an era in comics where there were a lot of dark anti-heroes and assassin types.
Elektra.
Yeah. Elektra, I think Punisher was fairly popular at the time. This was before Image, right?
I assume. I think
it was
so. 93. Yeah. No, that's post, I believe.
Is that post?
Yeah.
All right, so anyway.
I think 92. We should probably, maybe right there on the screen, we'll probably, during editing, figure out when Image was formed.
A little clip right here. We'll tell you when that happened. All right, so I wanted to give her some sort of dark story. She was an assassin. She used magic, and it was dark magic. There was something going on. I'll throw another picture up there. Hey. And so there was some madness to her a little bit, and a lot of that had to do with her upbringing. I came up with the idea that this wasn't something she had done by choice. Her father was the leader of some dark underworld organization, and he trained his only daughter to work for that organization. And so here she is. She's on a rooftop. She's got a sword. She's skilled with fighting and skilled with maintaining wild curly hair, apparently.
So she's like spy assassin at this point. Okay.
Yeah, she's a sort of a spy.
Superhero version of spy assassin.
Yeah, with dark underworld magic. I'm just going to keep putting up pictures and talk about her as we go. So yeah, there she is breaking into windows, just breaking and entering, doing thieving things, or spying on somebody, or killing somebody. And this, I think, this might have been one. This is one of the first where I kind of really fleshed out her, the colors of her outfit. All black with some red accents, and made sure I knew what color hair she had. She's got kind of a reddish mess of hair, and yes, this was before.
I'm convinced this was around the same time as Nicole Kidman in Far and Away. And she had her big tangle of curly red blonde hair.
Yeah, it's not my inspiration though. My inspiration was black and white, so I
take that, Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, Nicole. Who do you think you are? So here's I'm going to show a few more pictures here. So yeah, she's got this underworld connection and this sort of a demon connection, which I think, if memory serves, ties into more of the universe of comics that I had been developing and had kind of paired up with Dave in some of our stories as well.
And things started to overlap.
Yes. Which is, I think, ties around a villain character named Argabant. Oh, crazy name, right? That's what you do in comics. You give your evil demon villains crazy names, like Argabant, who also was a villain in a team story that I was working on called Phalanx, who is a team that teamed up with a team that David was working on.
We'll get to those episodes at another date, I hope. But yeah, when we were doing prep for this episode, I asked Jesse, because I didn't really have any familiarity with Quietus other than just seeing Jesse's development of her for the most part. I had never drawn her or anything like that. She wasn't involved in any of the crossover tie-in things. And I was like, I think she has magic, but I don't remember what it is. Is it specific? Are there rules? Is it a type of magic? Is there a visual? Because I kind of remember the visuals all being different. And Jesse was like, yeah, it's demon magic, so it's all different. Mm-hmm. It's kind of nondescript, all-powerful magic.
Yes. And there are very few pictures where I drew her using magic. There's one here. I have no idea what she's actually doing with the magic. Usually I just had her running around with a sword. But there's that. This was around the time also I was playing around with different medium to draw and color in. And I think something David had gotten me into are the Higgins colored inks.
Yeah, I had been told by an art teacher that Marvel was using Doc Martin's watercolors, I think, to color some stuff for the comics, which I don't even really know if that was true or not. But when I went to go buy some Doc Martin's watercolors as a high school student, they were way too expensive. But I found that Higgins had a line of colored inks, and I started using those to color with, and really liked the vibrancy and consistency of color. And then I turned Jesse onto them. And I think we were both using those inks to color our work for a while. This was kind of pre-marker era, before Prismacolor markers became a big deal.
Yes.
We were both kind of moving out of a color pencil phase into trying to get that kind of smooth, painted flat color like the inks.
Yeah.
Before marker.
Yeah, this is one of the colored pencil ones that I did. Yeah, I think it's all colored pencil.
I think there's some pastel in there, actually.
Yeah, the outside is shaded with some sort of pastel or something. The rest of it, I think I have some around the red too. So I have just like a fuzz of red around that.
You liked to mix medias and stuff then.
I did back then a little bit. It was fun. I think this one has a mix of things too.
There's that one always reminds me of Larry. Oh, I'm gonna blank on his last name. He drew a lot of X Factor issues. Larry Stroman.
Okay, I think I know that name.
Yeah, that piece always reminds me of like a Larry Stroman.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing with this piece. It's got crazy colors in it and crazy angles and a crazy face.
You're playing.
I was. I played around with it a little bit back in those days. I suppose I still do. Here she is using her magic to do something bad to somebody. Yeah, and then after that, let's see.
This image is always like the quintessential
all right.
Quietus image to me. This is the one I remember being in your portfolio back in the high school days.
Yeah, this was not so much a cover, but if I had done more work to it, I would have adapted this as maybe as a cover piece or as a pinup somewhere in a book, which I didn't do because I wasn't doing books at the time. But yeah, this was the iconic picture for Quietus, and I really liked this one. I don't think I ever colored it or anything. I don't think I have a copy of it colored.
And that's all. I think espresso pens, the felt nibbed pen, and then the big black areas are filled in with Sharpie. I'm almost positive. Yeah. Which aren't the best materials in terms of archive, but it just goes to show you, like, whatever works in your hands, whatever you get the best results out of is what matters.
Yeah, actually, I think this is 3 different types of pen. I think her lines are actually something different. These are I think they're too fine for an espresso pen.
Oh, like a roller ball. Maybe.
Yeah, a roller ball of some kind.
But still an office
Sharpie.
pen.
And you can tell the actual word Quietus is written in something else because it's
on the back side it shows through as being a slightly different color for sure.
Like
green. It's a little green. Not because it went down green, but because now it's aging as green.
This is why you use archival art products when you're doing your work these days. And after that, I toyed around with a single page of a comic. So this was just something I had put together. A page. She's complaining about her father sending her on a mission again, and the things that she has to do. Eventually, she rebels against her father at some point. Should the story ever continue past where I never really started it. So that is the basics of that. There are some other things that were done with the character. We, like probably several other people our age at the time, played some the Wildstorm card game. And this was after the fact. This was
much later on. This was college era. We were playing the Wildstorm collectible card game, and we were big Jim Lee fans and Image fans in general. So getting to play with all those Jim Lee characters and Wildcats and Stormwatch and all that kind of stuff. But we got to a point where we had played enough games over and over and over. We thought, hey, why don't we take some of our characters and make custom Wildstorm collectible card games, card game cards, character cards. And Quietus, and actually in some of my recollection of who Quietus is as a character comes from what she could do as a card. And she was very much like, for those of you who are familiar with the Wildstorm collectible card game, she was very much like the Ultimate Zealot card.
Yeah.
But more powerful. She was kind of a game breaker that if you could manage to get Quietus into your hand from your deck and get her played on the table, you won. You were unstoppable because she was just so powerful magically.
Now you still
magic.
Yeah, you still had to have a couple extra cards or something to get enough recruitment points to bring her out in the first place. It wasn't easy necessarily, but yeah, she was a game breaker.
Well, like always on the Plotmasters project, it's not just about revisiting the old drawings, but it's actually about revisiting by creating some new artwork and redesigning and reapproaching and seeing what ideas we like with these characters and how we would approach them today. For my version, like I said, I didn't have a ton of familiarity. This is the first time I ever drew Quietus. So I did this here in ink, and I focused on trying to keep her original design intact as much as possible. And then I just made the 2 things that I remembered the most. The nondescript magic, which I actually inked on the back side. So that I could isolate all the colored lines for the magic, but I focused on the nondescript magic and the hair. And other than that, costume-wise, I really kept it pretty true to form. I did a little bit of revision, kind of changing some of the metal things that are on her belt into almost like bangles that are tied onto a sash. But I felt like I didn't have enough familiarity with the character to really push too much further without just kind of almost creating something of my own. And I didn't see anything really wrong with what was designed there before, so I just pretty much kept it intact.
Yeah, I think it looks good. I think it's a good representation. It's fun. And I, on the other hand, had drawn her a lot. So
time for something new.
So for me, I wanted to adapt a little bit. And so I took her a little bit more modern and sporty. So I have this piece, and I gave her an outfit that was something she could move more easily in. Almost a little like Black Widow from the
Sure.
Avenger
Yeah.
movies or whatever, something like that. Just
Superhero athletic wear.
yeah. So the things that I changed, she had this red shoulder pad thing that I adapted to just a pattern design as part of her outfit. The red waistband I also adapted, so it's got the padded stitching in it, and it's just part of an outfit. Of course, she had the open chest window in her previous design, which I minimized to just this right here, just at the base of her neck, just to keep her more modest and more sporty. And gave her, I wanted to explore, like I really hadn't before, the various magics, so she's got this spooky mist around her with these Scooby-Doo ghost eyes that I threw in, which I enjoy. So I wanted to give her a little bit of that so I could explore, the magic and her communing with spirits, perhaps, or something like that, as part of what she does. So that was my adaptation. Of course, kept the hair. It's not as scribbly this time. A little more refined, but still big and still red and still fun, in my opinion. So I think I enjoy both of these. Seeing your version of, kind of like the quintessential what she was, and then my adaptation is like, I think it's kind of fun.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us on the Plotmasters project. We appreciate you watching, and hope to bring you another episode soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much.